Hello?
At the door etiquette. I think it's Etiquette. Etiquette. And I don't know about you, but I'm not one for etiquette. I mean, I'm not. It's not like I don't like it, but I'm the type. I got the elbows on the table. I'm breaking all the rules. My kids are getting on me because my wife taught them better than that. They're telling me, hey, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to pass everything this direction. You're supposed to, look, but there are some things that we have to do when we're around people and we're trying to leave a good impression. There are some things that we need to do. Well, even going up to the door of somebody to lead them to the Lord, we've got to think about the proper etiquette. And if you look at that first blank there, the first lesson that we're going to talk about is the uninvited guests. Uninvited guests. That's something to remember. When we go up to a door, they really didn't ask us to come. You know what I mean? And so their first impression is not necessarily going to be always favorable. We knocked on a door tonight, and the lady, when she came out, she just looked like she wasn't happy that we were there. And thankfully, we were able to, I think, just break the ice and be friendly with her and everything, and it ended up being an okay conversation. So there has to be a little bit of a recognition that you are their uninvited guest. You're trying to set a good impression for them. And so they're wondering, as you're coming out to the door, they're wondering who you are. They're wondering, why you're doing what you're doing. And I was always taught this. I don't know if everyone's heard, but when you're going up to someone's door, you shouldn't be like walking through their grass and being disrespectful of their stuff, messing with their car or anything like that. Because, I mean, they could be watching you. And nowadays there's cameras everywhere, and they are probably watching you and getting everything you do on record. And maybe even listening to your conversation. You might want to be careful, what you're talking about as you're getting to the door. All right, so here's some of the etiquette on the uninvited guest, page 25. Remember, their guard is probably up. I'm sure you've noticed that. Not everybody's just so welcoming and friendly to have you at their door. Their guard is up. And think about this. How do you feel around salesmen? We just had to go to Sam's Club today to buy some things for the church. And I don't know if you've ever been to Sam's Club, but it seems like on every corner someone's trying to sell you something. Or, hey, sir, can I tell you about this or whatever? And I don't know about you, but automatically my guard goes up. And I'm like, what can I do to get this person out of here and get rid of them, right? Because they're salesmen, and I don't want sales. If the phone calls and I don't know what the number is, I don't even answer it. Because I don't want to talk to a salesperson. And you say, well, we're not selling anything. Yeah, but they don't know that. All they know is you're coming to the door. There must be something that you're trying to benefit from them. People don't just come up to the door and give you free gifts. Right? Obviously, that's what we're trying to do, but they don't know that. They think you're trying to sell them on something. And so we can say that we aren't solicitors. Knocked on a door today of a sign, and my practice is I usually will knock, unless it's just really obvious that they're doing everything they can to get people out of there. I'll usually knock on the door anyway, and maybe 50-50, probably not even that much, probably like 2 out of every 10 people will say something about, hey, don't you see the no soliciting sign? Most people go ahead and talk to you and everything, but a lot of people have no soliciting signs on that. And my whole life I've heard soul winners say, well, we're not soliciting. Okay, but if you read like the laws on that, the ordinances for the city or whatever, we fit that group. Okay, they actually what they call us is proselyters. All right, and in a way, that's what we're doing. We're trying to convert them, so we're proselyters. And think about this. Here's your next blank here. Sometimes proselyters are even less favorably received than salesmen. All right. As a Baptist, everybody in here is a Baptist, right? How do you feel when Jehovah's Witnesses come knock on your door? Maybe you're like, oh, all right, I can't wait to go start. I'm like, oh man, shut the blinds. Get them on. I don't want to mess with this right now, or whatever. How do you feel about that? Okay. And so understand that the people behind that door, when they come out, they're already on guard. They're already thinking, how can I get rid of this person? How can I avoid this conversation? And maybe you've sensed that. It's like, what can I do to get this person to leave the door, okay? And so, however, it is still our job to do this. And so we've got to figure out how we can approach this person, how we can get to talk to them without, and still have the right etiquette and all this kind of stuff. So here's some tips. Here are some tips that might help. Number one, approach the door as if they are watching you, because they very well might be. Like I said, there's cameras, there's people watching out the door. This story one time in Oklahoma City, we were going to apartments, and somebody had already come. I don't remember. It was maybe Seventh-day Adventist or something. I don't remember. But they had left flyers on all the doors, and so we were visiting somebody, and we were knocking on the door, and I was like, I'm just going to take these flyers off the doors, right? Because it was like Jehovah's Witness or something, I don't know. So I just started taking them off the doors. And somebody must have been looking out the peephole the whole time, because he opens it up and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I did that." Right? But the thing is, people are probably watching you. They're probably trying to figure out what these guys are doing, to coming in the door. So they're watching you. So you want to make sure you're on your best behavior. You know what I mean? You're not, like I said, not cutting through their grass or their flowers or whatever. But you're going up there. You want to be mindful of what you're doing. Make sure that you use a friendly knock. All right. Now, I've learned this from watching some of you guys and from listening to different seminars, because I always did this. I always rang the doorbell, ding dong, and then I went. I mean, I was taught that. I remember I worked for UPS for a little while, and I didn't do the driving and everything. I was loading trailers. But one time during the summer, I went and worked with a delivery driver, and that's what they taught us to do. Ring the doorbell and then knock. In case the doorbell didn't work, then they'll hear that, and then leave a package. If you could just leave it, and they'll come answer the door. So my mind's thinking, hey, I just want to make sure that they hear. And so I'm ding dong. But what I notice is sometimes people come to the door with this very like, "What is it? What do you want?" Right? And because they're already on their guard, and sometimes just the sound of the knock can actually set them on edge. Is that a policeman trying to beat down my door, or is that what is the deal? And so somebody said this: friends knock. Is your next blank here? Friends knock, salesmen ring the doorbell. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know the UPS man rings the doorbell. But they say friends knock, salesmen ring the doorbell, or police try to beat the door down. So, what is a knock supposed to sound like? Everybody's got their own little style of knock. I don't know what a friendly knock sounds like. I don't. I just try to do something I want to make sure they hear it. But some people, I wouldn't recommend like some kind of corny like shaving a haircut. No, that's corny, man. Don't do that. but that would be friendly at least. But it's just something friendly, not like an aggressive knock. And I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about on that or not. But just even that knock might make a big difference on the mood of the person whenever they open the door. And so just to be thinking about that. All right, make sure to clearly state the name of our church. And you guys all know this rule. Emphasize Baptists. Now, I know and you know that someone says they're a Baptist, that doesn't really mean that they're the same stripe of Baptist, that they believe all the same things. But Baptist is a pretty large and accepted group, right? So when you say Baptist, most people have an uncle that's a Baptist, or a dad who's a pastor, a grandpa that's a pastor, or mom that's a pastor. I don't know. But, I don't know. Southern Baptists have women preachers, of course they do. So, but anyways, so people are usually their guards they're a little bit relaxed if you say you're Baptist, because I went out today. I had this shirt, tie. I had a long trench coat, and I'm like, and my daughter's with me, long skirt, also coat. Got the clipboard, paperwork in her hand. I'm like, oh yeah, they think we're Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're looking out the door, and already you can see in some of their faces, it's like, not interested. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Pastor Rocky Rana from Iowa Baptist Temple. Baptist, we're Baptists. And I don't know, it doesn't always help, but sometimes that'll help out. But you do want to make sure the name is clear. Sometimes you get this where they won't answer. This is frustrating. When they don't open the door, they're just like, who is it? And then you're like, all right, now I got to give them my name. Or if you're Austin Braden, that's when the gun gets cocked. but anyway, they don't open the door and they'll be like, who is it? Sometimes it's an older person, and they can't get up, so they'll say, come in. That's awkward. I don't know what to do. But, I usually just kind of crack the door a little bit, and I'll say, hey, I'm Pastor Rocky Randall. Well, you're not going to say pastor. It's a little bit of an advantage I have on that. But you're going to say your name, you represent Iowa Baptist Temple, whatever. Here's the idea. Only go as far as they will let you, okay? Only go as far as they'll let you. If they open up the door and say, get off my property right now, I mean, you don't have to say, well, let me just leave this tract first. I mean, if you do that, I guess that's okay. But go as far as they'll let you, right? If they'll let you, hand them a tract. And I'm going to tell you this, I'll probably mention it again later, but I almost always try to just hold my hand out there. And sometimes they'll stare you down like I'm not going to take it. But usually they'll take it anyway because they can't help it. It's like there's something in them, like I got to grab that because he's reaching out to me. So I'll just stand and look at him and I'll say, how you doing? Can I give you this? Now, even if they say, I'm not interested, get out of here, they still got their gospel in their hand. I mean, there's always that slight possibility that they'll throw that in a drawer or something like that. And one time they're having a bad time, and things aren't going good in their life or whatever, and they'll say, where is that car? They'll come across it. You don't know. I've heard lots of stories. Different things happen. We also, I'm going to get ahead of myself. So let's go to the next page here. So anyway, we're talking about at the door etiquette. Remember, you're an uninvited guest. All right, let's move on here to lesson 6.